All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we're going through Proverbs chapter 4, verses 16 through 17. Let's get it. For they cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They are robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble. For they eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. So this is talking about the verses before this were like, do not enter the path of the wicked, do not walk in the way of evil, avoid it, do not go on it. And then it goes, for the people who are walking that path, cannot sleep unless they have done wrong. They're robbed of sleep unless they've made someone stumble. They eat the bread of wickedness and drink the wine of violence. That's what we're talking about today. My interpretation of this is that, frankly, some people just suck. And they're going to continue to choose to suck. I think this is what's interesting. It's not like they're being force-fed the bread of wickedness and they're being forced to drink the wine of violence, right? Like they're sitting here choosing to drink this wine, choosing to eat this bread. Maybe it's because of ignorance. And for some people, they know and then still choose it, right? So some people it's out of ignorance and some people just straight up choose it and they can't sleep unless they've done it. And so I don't want to say people are wired for it because frankly, I don't believe that. I think we're wired to want God and God's plan for us. But I do think we let sin get a grip on us and we get to a point where we've built in habits of wickedness, of slothfulness. And again, wickedness doesn't always have to be killing people or stealing things. Like you choosing not to help somebody can be wicked. You choosing anything that is not of God is wicked, right? And so the entrepreneurial application of this, I would say, is to what extent are you this person? So the Bible talks about, bearing one another's burdens. It talks about loving people. It talks about just good business, practical sense and like giving gifts to people. Like all these concepts are in the Bible. And then you see in business, you can give gifts to build referral networks. You can love people with a product or a service. You can steward your time well. You can bear burdens with people, with businesses, all of these things. And the question is, to what extent are you choosing not to do that in your professional life and in your business life? To what extent are you leading with wickedness? So for example, sometimes I'll be like, I'll think small, or I'll get caught up in my limiting beliefs and my fearful thoughts. I'm like, ooh, I could reach out to 30 sponsors, $300 a month, and they could sponsor this event, and they would help me grow the podcast, and it would help those businesses, it would help me, and it would help people. All of those things are true, but I start getting in my head, and I'm like, but am I good enough to bear that burden with them? Can I actually steward that event well? All of those thoughts start coming to my mind, and so I am in a position where here the Bible's promising one thing, and here I am choosing to obey fear, and that's wicked. And so I say that some people just suck, and I'm including myself in that. Like I am one of those people that just sucks in many areas in life, and in many other areas I don't suck, right? And the key here is I continue to choose to suck. Have I reached out to the 30 companies? Nope. And I use excuses. Oh, I'm about to get married soon. I'm about to go on vacation, blah, blah, blah. Maybe those are excuses, but what about a month before that? What about 3 months before that? What about 6 months before that when you had the idea? All that good stuff. And so there are just ways, these are some of the ways that this has shown up in my life, of like, to what extent are you this person who is feasting on the bread of wickedness and the wine of violence? And, maybe you're not a violent person, but maybe you see violence and you don't step in. And so you're condoning violence. There are plenty of ways you can apply this to your life. Other ways this has shown up in my life is with my financial habits and risk tolerance. I've noticed that sometimes I'll throw financial stewardship out the window, and it's for the sake of my impatience. And so I will really invest in myself using future money or using debt when I'm not making enough income to cover that, because I believe that I'll make more income. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I'm saying it's taken me to zero from what little I had. I've always basically been at zero, but it's taken me to very stressful zero for my current life circumstance in a way that, I don't think is always healthy. I think with a little bit more patience, I would be able to give myself room to be more consistent. And with that consistency, I would see better results, right? And so even though I'm willing to risk it all, I need to risk it all in a sustainable way, which is funny because it's hard to risk it all in a sustainable way, but there are ways to do it. And that's something I've learned and I'm implementing in my life. So I've chosen not to be wicked in that way anymore. And I've chosen to steward my time, my resources, and my just mind better, right? And where do I want this to show up in my life? With patience and consistency, hands down. This probably sounds like a broken record at this point, but these are the things I need to develop. Patience and consistency and discipline and focus. All of these character traits are, I think, something that I'm building right now. And it's really that patience. And, the Bible in 1 Corinthians 13 talks about love is patient and kind. Love is patient. And we have a call to love as we are loved. All that good stuff. The Bible's all about pursuing love and loving others and understanding how much you're loved, right? And love is patient. And so anytime I'm choosing not to be patient, that is wicked. And that's a choice to eat the bread of impatience, to drink the wine of discontentment, whatever it may be, that is leading to your impatience, right? And so that's where I want it to show up in my life, where instead of choosing impatience, I'm choosing patience. And how can you apply this to your life? I would say, what inputs are leading you to your current actions? Think about that. And then think, how can I change these inputs? Because if you're anything like me and you can't sleep when you're feeling impatient, right? And so you have to go do something that is the result of being impatient to be able to sleep, to be able to have, it's like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. No, you're doing enough, you're maximizing, and you just need to be okay with waiting for the result of your actions right now. Instead, you go try to speed up those results, you can't sleep until you try, and then you fail, you fall flat on your face, you go back to zero, and you destroy all progress you had. Wickedness. Robbed of sleep unless they have made someone stumble. This is, I can't really apply that to my life because I don't think I'm ever really out to get people. I really try hard to love people, but I will say sometimes I have trouble sleeping if I let somebody be who they are, and who they are is limiting themselves. And we'll talk about this in the next couple of podcasts, but sometimes people make a choice and I need to be okay with letting people make that choice because it's not my choice to make, right? And sometimes I'm robbed of sleep, and I guess that is wickedness because out of my own pride, my own ego, I want to help people, right? And so what inputs are leading me to that? A lot of the concepts around self-improvement mixed with my expectations of myself lead to that. So then I look at the expectations of myself that I have silently of myself every day. It's like, I expect you to do this so that you can do this. It's like, well, why do you have those expectations? Question that input, because I'm filtering all of the inputs of my life through those expectations, and they all get slanted towards this kind of moral, you need to save, you need to be better, you need to do this, which I think has validity, but I think can go too far sometimes when it's tied up in my ego and when I'm losing sleep over it. And then it causes me to drink and eat this bread and wine of wickedness and violence because I am choosing to, try to save people for my sake, basically. That doesn't even make sense. Saving people for my sake. It's like, it literally just doesn't make sense. But it's the situation I find myself in because of the expectation filter that my inputs are going through. And so how can I change these inputs is the question I need to ask myself, and the question you need to ask yourself. What expectations do you have? What things in your environment? What books? What podcasts? What music are you listening to that is causing you to enjoy this bread of wickedness, this wine of violence, and do it in a way that you can't sleep until you've done something wrong, that you're robbed of sleep until you've made somebody stumble or you've imposed your will on somebody. Not to say those things are bad, but they're bad when done in a bad way. Is all I have to say. And that's all we got for you guys today on the show. Thank you so much for listening. Ask yourself what inputs are leading you to your actions. How can you change them? And yeah, we'll see you on the next one. On that note, we're out.